steps, and now it's like, what is going on over there? And it's because you have the butting of heads of people who are entrenched in their ways, who, why would we do anything different? This worked for us 5 years ago. Well, it might not work anymore. And then where's your passion? Well, now you don't have any wins, so now no one is incentivized to continue winning, because it's really hard to not be getting, like we're all in this because we like to work and we like fast paced. And if you're not getting those wins, then you get into this death spiral of like, we're going to fight about process, we're going to fight about the way we're doing this, we're going to fight about the best way, and we're not actually going to produce anything. And then we're going to be bummed because we haven't produced, and then it's going to continue, and it's this death spiral. And so I think, in my opinion, junior engineers introduce kind of a forcing function into the whole thing to actually take a deep look at what you're doing, why you're doing it, could you do it better? And they force you to think about new technology too. Game devs are at the edge, I think, of all new technology, but I also think that we have, because we're constantly being forced to do that, we have this inclination as well to just hold on to the stuff that works, like for dear life, and just be like, please don't take my things that I understand away from me. Like everything else is always changing, and this is my security blanket. Like I just love Jira. Like it's the thing that makes me happy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And if someone's like, but there's a better way, you're like, shut up. I don't want to hear about it. Like
Right.
I hear about the better way all day. I've given up every single thing that makes me feel safe, and this is the thing you cannot touch. Keep your hands off of it. And I think that is a natural human reaction to what we do when we are on all the time, having to change, having to iterate, having to deliver. And having juniors around, though, forces you. Sometimes you just got to let that go. Because you're going to look at it, and you're going to be like, ugh, they're right. This doesn't make sense. Let's switch to Notion. Let's switch to something new that the kids are using. All the kids are on, whatever. Let's use Discord. Screw it. Like, fine. And it ends up being better. And you're like, all right, well, I was scared for no reason, but it's a natural human inclination. And so I think that's what I've seen. Like the best teams that utilize junior engineers are really forcing themselves to be introspective and to do things in a different way, even though they might not want to or even need to, but eventually it ends up being a win. And you don't get that if you're hiring the same people doing the same things every day. And that's not to say seniors can't be innovative.
Yeah. I think this goes much broader than engineering as well. There's something behind what you're saying that I appreciate and that I think companies need to take more seriously, which is also what you're implying is that you need to also respect the junior opinion. I see a lot of studios that are, even as part of this idea of I could replace my juniors with AI, or I don't need juniors anymore, I can just hire seniors because they're so available because of all the layoffs or anything like this. It's like what is coming through is you don't respect those new eyes. You don't respect the person who's going to ask the stupid question that might actually be really smart. Excuse me. Because everybody else is just used to that being the way it is. And having the junior come in, like even like an artist, just go like, well, couldn't we just blah? And have everybody go like, oh. And again, if you're not willing to do that, if your answer is like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, you're here to learn, pay attention, and someday you get to have an opinion, then you won't benefit from this anyway. And I do see why, like, yeah, if that's the view you have on juniors, I understand why you don't want to hire them, why if you do hire them, they probably don't want to stay there and they're not going to learn very much, Like, there's all this stuff that's happening there, and you just basically put forward the stance of, if you are willing to bring in the people that have less experience, but then actually, you don't just let them run the show, but you pay attention to the things that they're observing, and you balance those fresh eyes against your existing blind spots you didn't even know were there, they have a lot of value to add. Because they are willing to try stupid things.
What's interesting as we talk about this that I'm very viscerally aware of? Leadership is willing to pay big money for these opinions. That's why consultants exist. They're supposed to come in and do this. And so it's not that people don't value this insight, and it's not that they're not willing to pay for this insight. They are. They just don't realize that they can get it for a lot cheaper and in a way that's going to help them and the industry in the long run without shelling out even more money to KPMG, or McKinsey or whomever your your favorite consultancy is. And nothing against those people either, right? They provide a lot of value, which is why they get paid a lot of money. But
Sure.
if you can get some of that value just from hiring new people into your organization and listening to them and empowering them to ask questions, why would you not at least supplement your, whatever you're willing to pay for and, your change making
Change
and
management
your
system. Yeah.
change management? Yeah, like
Yeah.
why not supplement that with something that's actually going to be a net benefit?
Well, and I can say this, and I say this perhaps to my own detriment as a consultant in the games industry, but one, that's spot on. Two, one of the biggest problems I encounter as a consultant is not. I'm able to spot many of those things, and my experience helps me perhaps spot them more rapidly because I've had more exposure to more things over a number of years. But I'm not there, and so I don't live it every day like your team does. And if you have a junior person who comes in and is actually passionate about solving a problem, I honestly, it's like, yeah, I can help you solve it, but they can also see it and potentially solve it themselves. Like, all I can do is try to help you solve it. Because if I solve it myself, I am now a single point of failure that's not even part of your company
Yeah. Yeah.
to that solution, versus having somebody there who is actually like, oh, I see this problem. Oh, okay, what could you do about it? Oh, I might do this. Okay, look, you solved it. Now it's solved. Now
And
it's
I'm sure
solved.
some of the healthiest companies you come in to help are the ones who are looking to find inefficiencies and change and are looking in many different ways to do that. So they're
Oh,
looking to
yeah.
someone like you to support the things that they probably already know but maybe need a fresh set of eyes on or some sort of confirmation on. But if they do their homework and they already kind of know where to look, it makes your life a lot easier. And having a team of people who is constantly mentoring and learning, and you've got interns and juniors, and you have people coming in, you have fresh eyes, makes the job that you know you'll inevitably have to do anyway, which is introduce some changes, a lot easier because they're
Yeah.
an organization then is primed to want to do that. The
Yeah.
senior
Well,
engineers are okay implementing the change, right? What's the worst thing
right.
that can happen as a consultant? You have all these ideas and
Right.
then you get sabotaged because people don't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually a really common, even for the McKinseys and the
Yeah.
Deloittes and those Bains, all like that is one of the biggest frustrations, because you will go in, and one of the things that I do when I do like a game dev readiness audit, like, are you ready to ship your game? I try to talk to everybody at every layer, because it is so interesting how different the perspective can be between different layers of our organization. And I think that's only become more so in a remote world, because it's harder for us to have communication between the layers. Like, we sort of recognize we need to talk among ourselves as the C-suite, or among ourselves as the directors group or whatever. But like, the jumps are tricky. And so I go in and I talk to those people, and it is so fascinating how much insight can come from, I'm a new person, I'm a new producer. I just showed up and I'm seeing these things, and like, it's just unreal how much. Yeah, they haven't been there that long, but whoa, they're putting some pieces together that when I reflect that back to the director group or the senior leadership team or something, that senior leadership group or director team goes like, oh wow, that's so true. And I'm like, it's almost, I haven't thought about this in this way before, but almost to say, hey, without your junior and new people, I wouldn't have known that either. Like, they were
Mm-hmm.
the ones who helped me put that together and frame that way. That thing that you saw is like, that is so obviously the problem that we're facing, that we hadn't articulated it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm actually enjoying that. Right? I haven't been new at a company in a very long time, and being new right now, I'm really like living that day to day, and I'm forgetting how much I liked being in that space.
Yeah. Maybe that's a takeaway for leaders listening, is that idea of, hey, are you taking seriously both the junior talent you have that don't know how to do it right now, but that do have a perspective? Are you valuing that perspective? And are you, to what you just said, are you mimicking that attitude of, I like being told maybe something I'm doing is bad because
Mm-hmm.
that gives me an opportunity to improve? Or do I reject that? Do I turn away from that? Do I try to run the other way?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people like to think that they can handle feedback well until provided it like by someone that maybe they don't expect to hear it from. So
Yeah.
getting feedback that you're have a blind spot from your CFO when you're the CEO, it's different than if someone at a conference in the hallway, a junior producer, tells it to you.